All right, let's start. Are we ready to go into production? 1 second. And good afternoon, everyone. This is Edward Jones, Director of Programs for ABFE, a philanthropic partnership for Black communities. And I'd like to welcome you all to this interest webinar regarding our Connecting Leaders Fellowship Program. The purpose of this program is really, in short, in 3 areas. Advance the slide. To provide you with an overview of the Connected Leadership Fellowship Program, to offer guidance and tips for you through the application process, and then, of course, to answer your questions. The way we'll use the program is I'm going to provide some information to you all. We're really glad that you can join us today. And then at the appointed time, we'll invite your questions. We have all the phones muted in order to allow for a uninterrupted conversation, but also provide us with an opportunity to get your questions answered in the allotted time or later if need be. You'll notice on the right side of your screen, you should see a chat box and also a box for questions. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to post those questions. And in about 15-20 minutes or so, I'm going to answer the questions that you have posted. So we'll proceed now and give you an understanding as to why this fellowship. The main purpose of this fellowship is really a continuation of the work that ABFE has been a part of for 45 years. When ABFE was founded about 45 years ago this year, it was with the specific intent to increase leadership opportunities for Black people in the field of philanthropy. There was a lack of diversity in the field, particularly in the senior level positions, and ABFE's leadership, the founding members, had actually made some concerted efforts in order to mitigate that issue by creating opportunities and bringing awareness to the issue. It was our own taking a stand in this issue, again, some 45 years ago. To this day, while we work to continue to focus on Black communities and focus on issues of importance to Black communities and encourage the field at large to focus, just as other affinity groups that are issue or identity-based focus on the causes or the peoples that they were founded to support, we want people to really understand just how important our roles are in the field. And we've heard stories. We've lived some of the stories around the challenges that exist in the field, particularly for Black people. We say it's Black people specifically in this work, not people of color. But we also know that there are great opportunities for us within this space, and we want to make sure that we equip fellows that take part in this program to be really capable and ready for not just the challenges, but also the opportunities that exist in the field. A few years ago, just a couple years actually, we created this exit interview report where we queried a number of groups around the country, individuals, and got their feedback around what the experiences were for them in the field of philanthropy. We thought it was an important exercise in capturing data, important data amongst the field, Blacks in the field, so that we could be better equipped to be responsive and also for the field to understand just what we see and how we see we are perceived, how we are treated while we are working in this space. Definitely encourage you to go into our Knowledge Center at abfe.org to view this exit interview when you get an opportunity if you've not already done so. You and your career will benefit from a strong network of peers. In that space, we want to make sure that you can invest in your future. We want to make sure that you remain strong at what you do. So we use this fellowship as a vehicle to do just applications open, as you already are aware, but there's a number of activities that take place through the course of the year that these fellows are a part of. This program really starts with the application process, but then it continues on through the selection process, and then the very first time the fellows often come together in person is at a leadership summit. And we've had these leadership summits for 10 years now, and we've been in places such as Minneapolis, we've been in Birmingham, Alabama, we've visited Flint, Michigan several years ago on a couple of occasions, and Newark, New Jersey, and elsewhere. This year, the fellowship is going to take place in Oakland, California, which also, many of you may know, is the birthplace of the Black Panther movement. Not too much of a coincidence, but it's really an important opportunity for us to understand movements and where movements build. And Oakland, as you know, is a very interesting and major place in the American story where movements are built and issues have elevated through that space. So we're wanting to start off the actual fellowship year in Oakland. There's also an opportunity for us to connect each fellow with an opportunity to kind of do a self-assessment. So we have a 360-degree assessment program that we work through with our coach, a coach that we kind of have on retainer with us, who's been a coach for this field or for this network for a number of years. Her name is Eva Montalvo. She's a dynamic person. Everyone tends to always reflect on how she has been a really pivotal part of their learning experience. Most often than not, people have not taken advantage of their own self-development, and they've not taken advantage of their own professional development in these spaces. So this is really a chance for you to do some self-reflection. Even if you've done it in your workplace, it really gives you a chance to start out fresh for not only Eva to have an assessment of you, but also for you to have an assessment of where you sit in this journey. The executive coaching part is a very important part of this program. And also another element of it is our ongoing calls that we have with the fellows. It's really a part of the ongoing cohort building because you only really come together oftentimes on one or two occasions at the conference in the next year. But there are other opportunities for folks to come together is by phone. And we use technology. We use web tools such as this GoToMeeting tool, as well as other ways for us to connect and to make contact and just maintain a level of communications amongst the group. So the group does check-ins amongst themselves throughout time. Through the monthly fellowship calls, we often have special guest speakers that will help impart a timely knowledge and understanding for the fellowship group. Annual conference, we're having our conference this year in Baltimore. We're actually at capacity, which is a great thing, but the annual conference is another time for the fellows to come together and to have a chance to kind of have a reunion of sorts, but then also to make connection with other fellows, other alums in this space. So we use that as another way for people to really strengthen their network, their professional network, as well as to identify others that may help them in this other element, which is the community-based learning project, because each fellow is encouraged to create a fellowship program experience and something that they can take with them and use and implement that they can call their own. Just recently, a fellow had tweeted literally, the Connecting Leaders Fellowship was an awesome experience for her, and we totally agree. Invest in your future. It is something that is priceless, and you really cannot afford not to. Next slide. A little bit about the application process again. If you've had a chance to go online into the form site application that we have available, you'll see that there's some demographic information that we ask, of course. We'll also ask for you to answer these 4 essay questions. You should also start thinking about who would you like to serve as your recommender. Who would provide the letter of recommendation for you that should accompany your application? And then the other element is your resume, or your opportunity to really talk about yourself professionally and use that as a way of giving us how you present yourself to the world as you are in the current position or positions that you're looking for in the future. The online application is very simple, and it's set up in a way that allows you to not only create the information and create the package that we need, but it also gives you an opportunity to go back and forth to complete this process over a period of time. while the application process is open, you can do that. But we also encourage you, once you create your new username and your password, to go into your application as often as you would like, then also make sure you save your information. Another way to do that is to create maybe a separate document where you're crafting your resume, your actual, not just your resume, but your actual essay, so that you have the work that you can tweak and build upon, and then also have others edit for you. So as you trust in your own skills, we also suggest that you verify, get others to help you as you're going through the process, and before you hit send on your final submission, that you have the exact message that you want to put forward in this space. Next slide. Here's a little bit of other advice for you that we just want to encourage you to think about. As you're building this information out for yourself, remember it is you, not the person that that you think someone wants to see, but be authentically yourself in this process, throughout this process. We really don't want a carbon copy of someone else. We really are encouraging that you look at this as your opportunity to present your best foot forward in this space. The selection committee is going to find that to be very important and look for authenticity. And also we're going to want to make sure that you don't fall subject to what often happens in a lot of these spaces. And surely I know you've been in those opportunities, those spaces where you've seen people and heard people use philanthropy. You know the language, these keywords, these buzzwords that if you were to put a bingo chart out there, you know in certain spaces you'll hear some of the same jargon used often. Don't focus and don't limit yourself to the jargon that exists. Use the words, use them to empower your message as to who you are. Just offering up a couple of great books for you to consider by Tony Procio that worked with the Communications Network for a number of years. You can download them free on that, but it really gets into a really interesting and timely reflection on how words are used and often sometimes overused in different spaces. And we know it exists throughout any profession, any sector, but these are some good tips for you to think about in the philanthropic sector specifically. Tell your story. We want to make sure we hear what that story is and who you are, and answer the questions again to your most honest ability. Talk to your recommender. We can't help and emphasize enough that you really focus on identifying someone that you want to represent you, to be your advocate in the application process. Work with them to help create your recommendation letter, and also let your recommender know what is important to you and why you are in this space. As you're going through this process, even after you've hit and submitted your application, think about ways to identify examples of leadership in your work experience. Some of those things will also manifest in your actual application. Don't be afraid to toot your own horn. You are your best advocate oftentimes, so use that to your benefit. You know you better than anyone else. And push, as you go through this process, we want you to push for the results and the outcomes that you want. Just remember that self-advocacy isn't a crime. And as a famous quote from Oscar Wilde notes, be yourself because everybody else is taken. So we want you to be yourself as well. Next slide. So some thoughts around and some guidance on how this all comes to play. As we mentioned, the overall idea of coming together in a lot of different ways, in person and virtually, there's also going to be that very important monthly one-on-one coaching experience with you. And more often than not, people have not had that full-on experience for themselves in their personal spaces. Most often, it's least likely for those who are not at the most senior levels of positions in organizations, unless they elect to take this on themselves. Most often than not, mid-level professionals aren't given that opportunity. So we encourage you to take full advantage of acceptance of this learning opportunity and this one-on-one coaching experience of about 10 coaching sessions throughout the year that you'll be a part of the fellowship program. In that space, it'll include opportunities to talk about different issues such as the competencies, and then your objectives and tools. And then as you look across the spectrum, you'll get a sense of understanding what leadership looks like for your own development, and as you see yourself even in the broader spectrum of being in the field of philanthropy. We know that a lot of times people don't look at themselves as leaders unless they have CEO or president after their title or in their title. Most people are really leading from where they are, and we want you to be strong wherever you're leading. If you aspire to be a CEO or to run your own foundation or to create your own nonprofit entity, we definitely encourage that. We don't want you to think any less of your leadership and the importance of your leadership in any position that you are currently in or in any position that you aspire to move to. So take full advantage of that and understand leadership is morally and ethically neutral. We have to choose positive, ethical, and authentic leadership. It shows up. We see what good leadership and bad leadership looks like across the country and in any sector that we're in or that we observe. So understand what leadership means to you and use some of these tips as important tools for you to understand who and where you are in this space. Next slide. So what's important here? The application process, as it's now open, it will close on the 18th of May. It will close at 11:59 p.m. Now, what often happens with folks is that, oh, they'll say, was that Eastern time or Pacific time or Hawaii Standard Time or I'm in Europe. So what is the time zone does it apply to you? Whatever time zone applies to you, use that as the time that you want to have the application submitted in the final steps of the process. You will see it let you know when you hit submit, you'll get a check mark. You get a confirmation of your application has been completed. So please have it done by the 18th of May, not the 19th of May, but the 18th of May. We plan to notify the cohort, those selected as well as those that won't make this particular round by the 17th of July. Now understand, we tend to have anywhere, well, technically we're usually around 10 fellows per class. We will identify a key number and settle on that number for the next cohort. And it is not because we don't want to take everyone that is seeking professional development, but it's a very unique opportunity. We want to make sure that it is one that has a solid cohort and has a group of folks that are ready to take this journey together. In that space, there's also the opportunity for folks to think about how they might find other ways to engage professionally in their own professional development. And we do offer some other programs, such as other cohorts, some virtual classes, and other ways to engage folks who may not be in the fellowship class or may even enhance their current experiences or past experiences of being in the fellowship. So again, our declining your participation this time does not mean that you're not ready. We want to take everyone, but we just honestly cannot do so. But we definitely encourage people that are not accepted to apply a second time, to come back. Some people have applied 2 or 3 times before they actually made the cut. And that's not a bad thing. It's really an opportunity for you to just take advantage, to talk more about yourself, which oftentimes people don't do, to learn more about yourself as you pursue these next steps in your professional growth and development. Active African membership is required, as well as this cost, $1,000 fee for those that are selected for the program. You'll find that this program in and of itself is far more valuable than the annual membership and the $1,000 fee that we require paid due within 60 days of the acceptance process. We know our membership, whether it's individual or institutional, is of particular benefit. We know that it's a rich opportunity for folks to come together in networks that they don't often see themselves in, and we want to make sure you take full advantage of all of that as well. That's why we have these issues before you. So those are the overview. That's an overview of the program, an overview of what I wanted to share with you today, and to give you a sense of what exists in the field for you as we provide this professional development opportunity. So I'm open for questions, and I'm going to invite you again to post your questions in the
muted.
make sure you can hear. I heard that that kind of went out, and you may not have heard all of that, but let me just remind you or reiterate. If you have someone that is in your office that can speak on your behalf, by all means, have them advocate for you. Just make sure that it's someone who can speak for you, that will speak as a true advocate, and that they understand who you are. If you identify someone outside of your office, outside of your organization, the same rules apply. You may not want to just get your cousin to advocate for you or someone down the street about what this is. It's a professional opportunity. You want a professional voice that can speak to you in your professional basis. I'll read someone else's question. It is, I have been working at a community foundation for 3 years, whereby I work on the fundraising side, not the grant-making side. Am I eligible to apply for the fellowship? Absolutely. The field is a very diverse one, as are the professions and the professionals that work in this space. One of the things that we look to do, and what we've done in this, particularly in the most recent years, is that we've been very open to who applies. Largely, these are folks that are in the philanthropic space, but on occasion there are people that are in the grant-seeking side of it. Community foundations are considered still technically in the philanthropy side, and still, even if you're working as a fundraiser or admin or name, fill the blank in position in the organization, the explanation as to who's eligible is very clear in the application. And if you feel that you meet that criteria, then by all means, we encourage you to apply. Again, are there other questions that you have out there? I can tell you one that's often come up for folks is that what happens after the fellowship program? Does this fellowship just start and end, and then you're just kind of on your own, thrust out in the world? We definitely encourage you to consider yourself a part of the family, the ABFE family, particularly the fellowship family, because it is a very unique space. Over the 11 years that we've run the program, we had 1 year that we had on hiatus, but we've now seen with the current class 101 fellows. The current class tends to call themselves the 101s, jokingly, but there's technically this interesting space that is occupied in the field, and we hear time and time again people that have gone to become CEOs, that have gone to lead in other areas in this space, that have really been able to reflect and to point to the fellowship as being a very pivotal time in their professional careers. Because it is a unique space that's occupied. For those of you that have been in the field, I worked in philanthropy for 12 years before I started with ABFE, and I've seen the lack of diversity. And I've been in a lot of spaces, particularly professional spaces, where there's just a couple of people that look like me in those spaces. And that's one of the unique opportunities, one of the very unique aspects of this fellowship program. Another question that's come up is, have you had more than one fellow from a foundation at the same time? Great question, and not necessarily, but we have had people that have been in the same community that have been part of the same cohort. It's not that we discourage that, but we do want to create a very unique niche for people to be part of this program. And so we don't necessarily want to have people that are all in the same organization be a part of it, but we have taken people that have alums that are currently in their current workplace. That builds a better network even. So that's something that we do take in consideration. I can't say that it has great weight necessarily, but it does have a certain cachet to it because it does get to that heart of building network and building community even within one organization. How many letters of recommendation? The answer to that is really, you only need one. You only need one for this program. But if you want to have more than one person complete one to get their perspective, that's your prerogative. Let them know. You may have 2 or 3 people that you really do value their opinion, but you want to see how they see you. And invite them to submit a letter on your behalf or submit a letter. You're the ultimate person that will choose which one you submit, but we only need one. The question that was around diversity has come up, and it's come up often. Do we look at diversity among the age group, position, years of philanthropy? We really don't identify, and I know there are certain spaces that may often, such as, for example, the organization called EPIP, the Emerging Practitioners of Philanthropy. They do look for a specific age bracket. That is not our goal for this. So we've had definitely a couple of generations within a cohort, and it's not that we say yes or no. It's just a matter of what is the best fit as we explore and look at who applies, because we're really basing it amongst just those that apply. We don't go outside of the pool of people that apply, and we get anywhere from, we've seen over the past couple of years that I've even been at ABFE, we've seen anywhere from 80, almost 90 people apply or at least start the application process, but only a fraction of those people actually finish the process. So with that in mind, again, few are chosen in this space, but we do have usually a very robust pool through which to review. So it's not to be taken lightly, and as I've encouraged you before, to really make sure that you are uniquely you and that you create something that will help you stand out and put your best foot forward. Regarding years in the space, it's 2 or more years of demonstrated experience is how we frame it as a grant maker or trustee or donor in the organized philanthropy space. And that is really because we want to make sure that you've gotten grounded or gotten some grounding in your work in the field itself. It's not an easy field. I would definitely encourage everyone to go back and take a look at the exit interview that I referenced earlier on, because it really highlights some real stories of people that have worked in this space. And so when you've gone through a couple years in your position, or even if you've gone from one position to organization to another, but you're still in the same general space, that gives you a good foundational knowledge and understanding of the field that will serve you well as you're moving forward in the application and moving forward if you're selected to be part of the fellowship program. Key to this work and what we consider our important work is focus on Black communities. And a lot of times we know, and many of you know too, in the field, we talk a lot about people of color or the underserved, or there's a lot, pick a phrase or a term to use to describe folks, but we're talking about Black folks. We're talking about the communities that many of us live in, work in, interact with, but we also look at the idea of the importance of your commitment, even if it's an emerging commitment, and understanding just how important it is to call out the areas that you want to work on, the areas that you are focused on in your you may be focused on communities of color, but understand what that means for Black communities when you are looking to explain the work that you do, or what you aspire to do if you were to do, if you're doing some external work that complements who you are as a person. Got a question about the community learning project. One of the important parts of the fellowship, beyond all of the ongoing external work, is for the fellows to identify something that is very important to them. It could be a project that aligns with your day job. It could be a space that you venture into when you're not at work, some community project, something with your civic organization, your fraternity or sorority or church or faith institution. It could be a community-based project that you just see as a dream, or see as something that would be really your personal contribution, that it's not on your work plan, but it's on your personal trajectory, something that you see as important to you. We don't prescribe what it is, but we do encourage the fellows to use and leverage what they've learned through their fellowship, what they've learned through their fellowship experience, as well as through their professional experience, to help shape what that program might look like, what that project might look like. Some folks have taken, even as recent as people that I've talked to that have were in the fellowship years ago, that have come back to look at their current positions and look at where they are today, and they've used and continue to use their position, their project, as really the foundation of what they do and why they pursue the community-based work that they do. It's not a right or wrong answer to it. We just want to make sure that you're committed to it and understand that it's not something that we want to have or see as an onerous experience, but as an experience that really does help you and help us all create better communities in which we live and work. Someone else asked about the life after the fellowship, and I just wanted to talk a little bit more about that, just because I think that there is a lot to be said for that. I know people have come out of this program and they reach back to others that were in the program with them. They reach back to people that they've come to know that have been part of the program to kind of really bounce ideas off of, sometimes to celebrate, sometimes to commiserate around just things as they see them. But one of the important parts of this, can't express enough, is the idea that when you've created these networks, you've created these folks that have your back, is that you use them for them to have your back wherever you may be. I can't say that we want everybody to have an epiphany and then just step out of the field of philanthropy, but we want you to really, while you're there, to be as strong as you can, to be the best voice for the work that you want to elevate, to be the best voices and unapologetically focus on your communities or the communities in which you are professionally aligned to support. We want that of you, so we want you to feel strong in being who you are and doing what you do, and part of that space comes after the fellowship, because the work really does start after you have your very last coaching experience, after you've been in your very last webinar with a guest speaker, because then you're to take all of what you've experienced, and we want you to take it and just keep moving forward with it. We want you to practice with it. We want you to make it part of your DNA as you move forward professionally. It is so critical for you to take on this work and to be present. I can't tell you how many times, but I've had it heard more than often, the need for people that look like us in these spaces to be at the table when nonprofit organizations, Black-led, Black-serving organizations come to a foundation and seeking support for their work. People that understand the work. Foundations are at this point and are going to be in this space where they are understanding the importance of having culturally competent thought processes and thought partners in this field. It's not a space for just advocating in some generic way, but understanding what precipitates issues helps to make for better grant making. It helps to make for stronger communities. Those of you know about what's been going on in Flint. We just had a webinar around Flint, and some of the leaders that were on the call around that issue, they talked about the idea there are fewer organizations, fewer Black-led organizations in the community. Some of the iconic organizations have gone away or may have not been at the forefront of leading. But we've also seen, as a result of so many of these issues that we know are happening in our communities, they have taken on a new meaning as it relates to being stronger and being more intentional around saying this is an issue, these are issues that are affecting Black communities, and we need people to understand the issues at the table when we talk about identifying solutions. We through this process, want to make sure that people understand that this is, again, not to do anything less than strengthen the field at large. We want people to capture their moments. We want them to take these experiences and come away with them stronger, better in their work. We don't want it to be a process or an experience that is going to make your work more difficult. We want it to be an enhancement to your work. So as folks go through the process, we encourage you, if you're accepted in the fellowship, we would encourage you to be very, very open with us around what you're experiencing. Be very open to us around any thoughts or ideas of things that you learned about that you want to share. This group, the folks that are going through the program, a number of them are already connected with us through other social media. We have a separate group that's for fellowship, current or past fellows on Facebook, for example. It's a space where folks tend to share a lot of information. Others use tools as a group, communication tools such as GroupMe, excuse me, to allow them to, again, just touch base with each other. Sometimes it's very light, sometimes maybe around some very important or heavier issues. And so to that end, we encourage you to, when you get in, to take full advantage of it. Do not step back. Get all of it that you can out of it. So the last question that I have for you, next slide, is basically very simple. What are you waiting for? Really, no, that's not me, but someone that looks like me. And I would encourage you all to apply for this opportunity. Take full advantage of it. Encourage if you know that it's not for you right now, but if there's someone that you know of that may benefit from it, share it with them. Someone mentioned that they had, there may be something that's broken as far as a link is concerned. We'll go back and take a look at that. We'll repost it. The information that we have that we put out there, we will continue to share information on social media regarding this. The application is also on our website, abfe.org. We want to encourage you all, again, to make sure that if not this, there may be other resources that we offer within the space of professional development. One other notable space that we occupy is around what we call sponsored philanthropy in Black communities. And we use that frame to help strengthen understanding around what's important in Black communities. When we look at the challenge that we are facing, we look at the opportunities that we know exist and that are often undertold, if told at all. We want to make sure the full Black community is, and the community in all aspects of community and all diverse aspects of our community are represented and are strengthened through the work that we do with philanthropy. The RPBC training is just one of those tools that we put out there for foundations, trustees. We've done the work in communities. We've done individual coaching, transformational leadership with an RPBC lens to give people opportunities to see just how they best benefit from looking at issues and looking at their causes in a way that affords them really a stronger perspective in their work. We'll do other trainings throughout the year, throughout this process, such as our webinars, such as other areas of work that we lift up. And then, of course, our conference. I mean, I would hope that a number of you are going to be able to attend the conference. As I mentioned earlier, it is at capacity, so we have limited space available, but you'd have to reach out for us to confirm if there's an opportunity for you to participate. But what's most important to this is that you really do plug in and connect with individuals that really understand where you are in this space, that take advantage of your knowledge, because we all bring something to the table, but always be open to identify with those that may bring something a little different, or something more, or something that you just may not have come to understand as far as the perspective is concerned. Those kinds of things are really, really important in this space, and we would encourage you to be present and be part of this. I've not gotten any other questions thus far, but if there's anything that comes to mind, if you have any other questions, my email and phone number are both on this slide. We want to encourage you to reach out via email or phone call, because again, we are here to help strengthen you in the work that you're doing, because we need you. And we hope that you'll find need and opportunity to be part of us and our work. With that in mind, I will let you all know that you can get back to the rest of your day. And at the end of this, we're going to invite you to reflect on this. We have this year's webinar we'll record that you can come back to. We'll also have last year's webinar that was available in our Knowledge Center. And we, again, want to encourage you just to think about what and where you see yourself, how you see yourself in this field of philanthropy. But we definitely know that you do offer a contribution that is uniquely yours. And so because it's uniquely yours, you want to make sure that you are bringing out the best and the best of your work and the best of who you are in what you do. Thank you all for being a part of this. And again, all the best to you, and we'll see you soon. Have a great day.